Hey folks, no word a lie, I have recorded an edition of this video every day for the last 4 days. I just can't quite get it right. And I want to make sure I get this right because I think it's important. Last week, as I'm sure you all are aware, a young man, 13 years old, was shot and killed by a Chicago police officer. His name's Adam Toledo. And of course, this raises a whole bunch of questions. This raises all kinds of questions about how the police operate, their policies, their procedures, their training. It brings up all kinds of questions. But then some political pundit went in a different direction. And they asked a question that was, where were his parents? The implication, of course, is that his parents are nowhere to be found, and that's why he's running the roads at all hours and hanging out with people that he shouldn't hang out with, and that is ultimately why he was shot. That political pundit was, in a rather cowardly way, blaming the parents for the death of their son. A question like this is never asked out of sincerity. It's never asked because they actually really want to know the answer. They ask a question like this because they're deflecting the blame. They're shifting blame away from the man who pulled the trigger onto the shoulders of people in this case, people who've just lost their child, whose child has just been taken away from them, a child that they loved. There is little sincerity in a question like this. But as I like to do, I like to ask myself, what could a question like this actually offer us? What could a question like this actually offer us? Well, a question like this requires us to answer a whole bunch of other questions. It requires us to take a real good, solid look at what's going on in the lives of North American families. How many jobs are they working? Between the two of them, how many jobs are they working? How many hours do they have to work at those jobs, at their hourly wage, in order to break even? In order to get by, to pay their rent, to put food on the table, to put clothes on the backs of their children, to keep themselves maintained, to take the family to the dentist or to the eye doctor, to pay for prescriptions, exams, school supplies, to help their kids have some kind of an enjoyable childhood. How much time do they have to spend away from their family in order to ensure that their family's basic needs are met? So that question that pundit asked, it could actually force us to take a real good, hard look at what's actually going on in the lives of Canadian and American and Western families. Because chances are it doesn't look like the same life that pundit lives. It's not a matter of 6 figures a year or 7. It's not a matter of book deals, nice, wonderful houses out in the country, boats, cottages, cars, safe neighborhoods. The average family in North America right now, Canada and the United States, the average family is living day to day. They're living day to day, paycheck to paycheck at best. Most families don't have any kind of savings for that rainy day. It's gone. Many of our families, now that we're in the middle of this pandemic, many of our families, they're forced to work, to put themselves at risk. They're essential workers. They're at the cash registers. They're on the production lines. They're exposed in ways that this political pundit isn't. Most Canadian and American families are struggling. So a question like, where were the parents for many, many, many people in our societies? The answer is doing everything they can to take care of their children, to provide food, clothing, safe place, shelter for their children. Maybe we can take a question like this and turn it around. And rather than casting blame on two people who are experiencing a depth of sorrow that I pray I never know, maybe we can take a question like this, turn it around, and ask ourselves, what exactly is wrong with us as a society? Why is it that people have to struggle so mightily? Why is it that people have to work so many hours? Why is it that people's hourly wage is so low? Why is it that people can't afford to go see a doctor? People can't afford to go see a dentist. People can't afford to buy fresh vegetables. Maybe a question like this could lead us, if it was asked sincerely, maybe a question like this could lead us to asking some other really, really deep and important, life-changing questions, so that this kind of thing doesn't happen again. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted up to you. May you always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. And I pray for Adam and his family. I pray that they will be comforted. I pray that they will be allowed to grieve. I pray that their grief would not overwhelm them and isolate them from those who care for them and love them. And I pray for all of us that none of us would ever experience what the Toledo family is experiencing. Amen.